Hi, everybody. My name is Angus Wright. I also go by Angus by Design. And this video is in the spirit of something that I call the Dharma Talks with Angus and Angus by Design. And speaking to the basic principles of cosmic or individual existence and our individual duty and nature. And I'm joined by a person in my world named Seth Pearson, and Seth is going to say hello and going to read the slide for us, and then we're going to roll into just an open conversation about how yesterday went and where we're at with that, and we see where we're going to go. So over to you, Seth.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Angus. Yes, my name is Seth. My name is Seth Pearson. My pronouns are he and they. It is a pleasure to be here with you today, Angus, to be able to do this. So I'm really looking forward to this. So, the Dharma Talks with Angus, aka Angus by Design. Speaking to the basic principles of cosmic or individual existence and our individual duty and nature. Guests are invited to check in, share their lived experience, and reflections by journaling out loud and checking out in wellness. Our focus is on lived experience from a person-first perspective and centered around the 8 dimensions of wellness: social, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, physical, financial, environmental, and occupational, as outlined by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA. Our connection will be rooted in the principles and practices of peer support, inclusive of international standards of practice as supported by evidence-based models of recovery and wellness. All participation is voluntary and about ourselves from a personal perspective. It should not be considered an endorsement or personal, professional, or medical advice. The contributions are those of the participants and do not reflect the opinions of the host, the platform, or the artist curating the discussions. All content is shared with permission and protected by copyright.
Any thoughts or feelings about what you read there?
It's interesting. One of the things that I love about being, a peer support specialist, but then also kind of being in this community of practice with you, Angus, is that we focus on a person-first perspective. We speak, using only from our own also lived experience and everything. But also that we incorporate in the 8 dimensions of wellness, and also the 5 basic principles as well, wrap. So, I mean, it's all of it. It just I love, and it makes me feel so warm inside. So it's something that I really love and appreciate. So yeah.
And then you mentioned a couple of those things, but what else does this kind of remind you of?
This also kind of reminds me of our safety agreement as well, with all participating volunteering about ourselves from a personal perspective. So yeah.
So what does a safety agreement mean to you? And then in the context of these conversations, what are some of the frameworks in which you think will keep us safer and respectful in terms of the conversations we're about to have? Because we're going to have excited conversations, and I may say inappropriate things, right? So as may you, and we'll definitely offend somebody, because
of course
that's the tea I serve all day every day. But what are some of the things in our safety agreements that you think would be good and applicable for this time?
Well, the first thing you asked me, what the kind of purpose of a safety agreement, what it means to me, and for me, it definitely is a way for me to know that that I'm in a safe and supported place, and anything that I say, kind of what happens here stays here, which is one of the principles of the safety agreement, which I also really love. That's something that really helps me. I think in addition to the fact that participation is voluntary as well, and about ourselves, speaking from lived experience as well. So the safety agreement really kind of helps me to know that I'm safe in this environment, and I'm with someone that that gets me, in a way. So I think definitely kind of, as I said, speaking from my own lived experience, and it's interesting. One of the things of the safety agreement and everything, back then was kind of, be leery of judgments of other people and everything, and not, and I think inside of the 2S LGBTQIA community, which you and I are both a part of, that's something that is done a lot, and everything. So I think it's important to kind of have, that also kind of as part of a safety agreement as well, and especially as a part of, part of our discussion today as well. So yeah, and having a safety agreement, especially for me, in place, it's something that's really, really vital. I have, there's been a lot of, stuff that's happened to me, and I sometimes am in places where I don't feel safe. But to be in an environment like virtual, for instance, or like the environment that I was in yesterday, where there already is a safety agreement in place, I know that that there won't be like any judgment or anything. I'm with somewhat like-minded people, with a type of, we all having our own lived experience, so we speak only from that. It's been something that's been monumental. And inside of our community of practice, I think, when we used to have, the centers, come into, virtual, it was really interesting, because once you had really, set forth, the safety agreement and went, look, this needs to be followed, or, remove yourself from the room or whatever, it became really, really paramount. People started paying attention more, I think, because they knew that they were safe, because they knew that there was that, a shield in place, in a way, if that makes sense. So yeah. So I kind of pretty much said, good morning, everybody. And they were like, good morning. There was a few dispersed. I'm like, let me try this again. Good morning, everybody. They're like, good morning. I'm like, there we go. Again, some more like get, like attention and everything. And then everyone was staring at me. I'm like, oh, crap, why did I do that? So yes, the thing was, I was holding a mic. I had to hold it.
Yeah.
I had to hold the mic, and I had my laptop in front of me on this like podium thing. And then there was a screen over to the side that was showing the slideshow and everything. So I pretty much started with my name. I started pretty much like, hello, my name is Seth. My name is Seth Pearson. My pronouns are he and they. I want to thank you. I want to thank first Mariah for that amazing introduction. And she's like, you're welcome, honey. She's like, you're welcome, honey. I'm like, thank you. So I then started going into the safety agreement, which I then started going into the actual safety agreement.
Did the timing help? Like,
oh my God!
Was helpful, or
the timing really, really helped, because I literally got it to exactly 30 minutes.
Nice.
You would have been very proud of me, because I checked the time when I started, because I had my phone up there. I had my phone next to it, because what I was trying to do was trying to time myself.
Yeah.
Because my thing was, I wanted to stay to the 30 minutes, and damn if I didn't. I was maybe 30 minutes and maybe 2 seconds over. I was like, damn.
And you said they liked your logo?
Oh, they love yeah. Well, that was interesting, because people were asking me afterwards, like, Seth, where'd you get that logo? I said it was made for me by my mother. And they're like, who's your mama? So I told them about you and everything, and they're like, oh, you already have a mother? I was like, yes, I have a mother. And this woman, what's her name? I don't remember her name, but she was looking at me going, sweetie, she's like, sweetie, I wish I could adopt you, because you are too cute.
It'll take a village, so she totally can.
I'm like, thank you. Anyway.
I also just thought it was cool too, because I added your socials on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how did it look? Kind of cool to see the moving slide and the moving icon. So okay, cool.
Yeah, well, it was interesting, because the AV guy or the sound guy had asked me, I was like, do you have any like video or any audio inside of your presentation? I said, well, there is video, because there's effects and everything. And it said, okay, cool. So that's fine. So I pretty much had started with kind of an introduction. I had then gone into the safety agreement, talked about the safety agreement, and then asked at the end, is there anything else we need to consider for the next 30 minutes? And one person was like, I got something to say. I was like, yes, this was a performer. His name was Spade Morningstar. He was he was on right after me. He was one of the performers. I got videos of him. He's so awesome. And he's cute too. Oh my God. But
so you have videos of him, but not of your own.
I know that. Well, that's the thing. I was taking videos.
Jeebus.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably they do have videos, I would think, because Andy or Miss B was taking videos and taking pictures of me as I saw during my presentation. So there probably are somewhere. I just haven't found them. I did reach out to her and ask her, because I also did thank her, and everything for yesterday, because I had such a great time. And TS Madison also asked me if I had a good time too. Anyway, I'll get to that later. Anyway,
okay. So safety agreement, and then the
yes, I went into the safety agreement, and then Spade Morningstar. He's like, I got something to say. I was like, okay. He's like, can I come to the front and say it? I said, yeah, of course. He came to the front and say, he said, all right, y'all. My part of the safety agreement to help keep me safe. I don't want none of you queens or no one rubbing up on me because I got a girlfriend. He's like, and that'll keep me safe. I'm like, thank you. He's like, you're welcome. He said, that'll help me keep me safe in here. I said, there you go.
Yep. Exactly. And that's exactly and that's why we ask, right?
Well, it's interesting because then when I show you the videos of everything and him performing and everything and his dancing moves, I'm like, now I know why he said this. Anyway, so
he brings the sex.
Oh my God. Yes, he does.
Nice.
And of course, I'm looking at his chest also. There's like no scars on his chest either. I'm like, damn, boy. So anyway, Anyway, so went into, so the safety agreement went great, and then I started into my introduction and everything. I talked about as a Black trans artist, Black trans speaker, Black trans organizer, and everything. And that was something that they really like. One person was looking at me going, oh yes. Everyone with the snapping, just everything, the clapping, the whoop. I'm like, damn. But the one person that really started the snapping and everything was the DJ. Because he's right behind me over to the side on the stage, like controlling the sound and everything and the microphones and everything. He's like, yes. He's like, Seth's preaching up here. I'm like, I am? So
bringing the noise, DJ. Yeah.
Seriously. Anyway, so I went through this, and then I started going into the circle of control and everything, and was kind of talking about it and everything. And
well, let me ask you before though, because you said you went into who you are as a. So what were some of the things that you were saying, and did you feel like as they were cheering you on?
Mm-hmm.
How was that feeling for you in that moment? Because
in that moment, it was extremely validating. It was extremely validating, and it felt amazing to again part of the safety agreement, but also being in places where you're seen and you're heard. Excuse me, and it was just one of those things where I was like, I'm loving this. Can I just like take y'all home with me? No, I can't. I know I can't.
That could have been that could have been the rest of the 28 minutes of just you saying stuff that you are and do, and then cheering you on. Yeah,
it could have.
That's awesome.
But my biggest thing was I really wanted to get into the circle of control, because I think this was something that was really, really like prevalent and everything. So when I was talking about this and everything, one person was like, so like I can control anything that happens, like stuff with me. I was like, yeah, I mean, that's really the one thing that we are in control of, our thoughts, our reactions to other people, our reactions to this administration, our reactions to everything. One person like, oh, don't get me started on administration, Seth. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. But it's okay. But it's good to talk. It's good. She even said it's good to talk about it. I'm like, yeah. Anyway, so talking about the circle of control and everything, and one person actually asked me, wellness recovery action plan, what is that? So I then again, I still stayed within this 30 minutes, but I started talking a little bit about rap and what it is, and I talked about our Rap in Canada Facebook group and everything as well. They're like, "Oh, cool," and I was like, "Okay, Seth, getting a little off track. Get back on it," because again, I wanted to stay in the 30 minutes, and I did. So, so I went into this, and then I said, "All right, y'all, we're gonna go into an activity right now. This is called the fuck it bucket." One person like, "Oh, fuck it." I'm like, "Okay." Oh my god, this is awesome. So I was talking about, so this is to write something you'd like to forget about, say fuck it or forget it or chuck it or whatever, release it energetically and everything. So I have my yellow sticky notes and I have my pink ones and everything. It was interesting because a lot of people were like, yes, I want to do this. So I had the yellow and the pink, and people were writing stuff down and everything. So I was like, oh my god, this is incredible, and everything. So I went through all of the steps and everything. So going through all of the steps of it and everything. So
what were some of the shareable things?
Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Okay, so it was interesting. One of the things was childhood trauma. So fuck childhood trauma. One person wrote Trump. Fuck Trump.
Fuck it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. So there was childhood trauma. There was Trump.
And honestly, fuck trumping anything. Nobody needs to trump anything.
Yeah.
Unless we're playing euchre, and you've got the jacks which are trump. You ask which that's all that trump. That's the only meaning.
Oh, only trump. Yeah.
The rest is just like hella. It's like Chucky and everybody's great grandfather had a baby. But anyway, I digress. So fuck it. And what else?
There was that. Okay, so there was that. There was Trump. There was the administration as a whole.
It is a whole, that's for sure.
There was abuse.
Fuck
there
it.
Was transphobia.
Fuck that.
Misgendering.
Fuck it.
Misgendering. What? Also, one person wrote flat shoes.
Fuck flats.
Fuck flats. Fuck flat shoes. And everything. And I'm going, okay. It was interesting because the person who said that, she looked at me and was like, Seth, I cannot wear flats. I said, I got you. I mean, I don't understand that personally for me, but I got you. Okay. She's
yeah.
Like, fuck flats. I'm like, all right, cool, fuck flats.
If that's what you want to fuck in that moment, get it out.
Exactly.
Fuck
so
flats.
We went through all this, and everyone was really receptive to it. So we did it. How was this experience? People thought it was great. So one person said it was liberating. One person said it was liberating because I hadn't had caffeine today and I need to wake up. I'm like, there you go, wake up. So yeah, how did it feel to surrender it over for sharing? And a lot of people said they felt comfortable with that. I feel to celebrate, support. I thought that notion of camaraderie was amazing. I thought the safety agreement and action plan was great. The one who was talking about kind of his body and everything, he was like, "Oh, I'm good with that. I'm good with that, Seth, because I perform right after the workshop." I'm like, "All right, cool," and everything. So it's like, "What is your next step to get connected to me?" They're like, "I gotta follow you," and a few of these people actually I noticed have followed me.
Nice.
On Facebook. I was like, "Okay, cool, this works." And everything. So it was an incredible experience to be able to do that.
And you said that you finished in the 30 mark, and then they said we need you to keep going.
Yes. Okay. So it was the 30-minute mark, and then the two performers right after me. And then the next performer needed like 10 or 20 minutes to get ready. And the two other performers that had performed right after me, they didn't really have anything. So Andy, or Miss B, she looks at me and is like, Seth? Like, yeah. She's like, how about entertaining us or just talking about something for about 10, 20 minutes? I'm like, huh? It's like, yeah, here. Come here. Get up here, boy. I'm like, okay. I got up, and she's like, "Here, take this, and just talk. Like, talk. Get the people." She's like, just do it. You'll be fine, honey. And then she
So
pat me on.
she had you do crowd work.
And she pat me on the head and everything. And she's like, you go, boy. Come on. I'm like, hi. Okay.
So what'd you do?
Okay. So in the spirit of everything, I'm like, all right. Okay. I'm like, okay, I got this. So we are at the first ever DC Black Trans Pride. When you think of Black Trans Pride, what does that symbolize for everybody? Name one or two words what that means to you. Again, I was going from, the thing is, where you and I, we talk about in groups, what do the names of the groups mean to you? Words have meaning.
Defining.
So I said, what does DC Black Trans Pride mean to you? So people started shouting stuff. One person said empowerment. One person said rebellion. One person said resilience. I'm like, yes. And then after each word, people are like, yes. I'm like, yes. And everything. So I'm like, okay, so all of this means something to all of us. So as trans individuals, we are inside of an organization that wants to strip us of our identity, pretty much saying that we don't exist at all, and as Black people, as African American human beings, our ancestors during slavery, our names were stripped from us, our identities were stripped from us. So bringing in the resilience, the empowerment, all of this, taking what we are in control of, what we're not in control of, this all helps to empower us. So like, yes, and everything. I'm going, yeah, I made all this up on the spot, Angus.
You weren't making it up. You weren't making it up. You were saying the stuff that we talk about all the time. You were basically sharing the spirit of what our programming is.
Pretty much doing a group in a way.
Which you could have pulled up the website at any point in time, and you could have shown any one of our.
Well, that's the
you
thing.
could have done any one of our programs.
I probably could have. But
I'm just saying, but that's what you were. But you didn't have to, because you basically did what was in the present, which was define it for yourself. You heard what I define it as. You heard the I ams, right? So it basically, you just gave them an opportunity to share what you had an opportunity to share.
Then I kind of started going into, I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay. So a lot of the administration, a lot of these things can conjure up a lot of pain and everything. So I what I kind of started trying to do was, again, I was going from the finding balance through pain thing that I had, because that was the thing that I had in my head. I was like, all right, so what emotions come up when we think about pain? I had nothing with me. My laptop was already closed. I'm like, all right, so what emotions come up when we think about pain? And people are like, yeah, sadness, guilt, anger, all this. I'm like, yes. And I was like, and where does pain come from? And they were talking about pain and everything. And then I was telling them about how when I started doing the transcendental meditation that I'm going to be doing at the end of the month, starting Saturday, actually, which I'll tell you more about that. I'll be there for a group. I'll be fine. I was like, the guy had said there's no such thing as stress. I'm like, hold on with me. People are like, what the fuck? I'm like, okay, hang on. The reason he said this was because there's a lot of stuff that happens around us that we may not be in control of. But the thing is, we are in control of kind of how we react to it. Right? Yes. They were like, yes. Okay. So they're going, yes. I'm like, yes.
Started to get them back.
I was getting them back. Yeah, I was trying to get them back because people are looking at me like, what the fuck? There's no such thing as stress. What the hell are you saying, Seth?
I'm so glad you wrote a check with your mouth that got you that reaction, because we have to be careful of the things we throw out there. I know.
But my thing is, okay, so what happens is, how we respond to these things is, we could respond with the anger and with the depression and the anxiety and everything. That's what brings on the stress for us. And Miss B was like, oh shit, Seth's bringing the damn wisdom. I'm like, okay, I'm like, yeah, pretty much, and everything. So again, so we may have all this pain and everything around us because of the administration, because of everything that's going on around us. But in order to lessen that pain, what do we got to do? We got to accept that bitch. I even said accept that bitch. Like, yes. I was like, we have to accept it, and we have to find ways to navigate through it I took this from Jonathan Sagers. It's like finding ways to navigate through it without just trying to just, brush it to the side or say, I'm not feeling that way. We got to move through it. We got to actually feel it. And I said, and I get that from my uncle, Jonathan Sagers.
Nice.
And so I brought Jonathan Sagers' name in there. They're like,
damn
who?
right. You could have brought up the Dow.
I probably should have, but I said, they were like,
let's go on the Dow.
Some people were like, who's Jonathan Sagers? I'm like,
who's Jonathan
okay,
Sagers?
hang on.
Oh,
so I then started talking about Jonathan Sagers, like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, you can look him up.
Did you drop some historical references?
Yes.
Arthur Ashe?
I did. I said cousin Arthur Ashe.
Cousin
I said,
Arthur,
I was pulling all this in.
Virginia.
And they're like, oh, cool. I'm like, yeah. So and then finally the performer said that she was ready. And I'm like, oh, I'm done. Okay, I'm done. Goodbye. So I'm like,
good luck, bitch. Yeah.
So I'm like, that's it. Thank you all. Again, always remember, focusing on what's in our control is one of the things that's going to help us the most. That's where our power source is. So, boom.
Which was the tool that you presented.
Yeah.
And they already knew. So I love that because, you did it in a way. And what I love is that you had the workshop. And what I love is that regardless if anybody else knew what was happening, you started it off with a safety agreement. And that crowd was considering their safety. They communicated it. They supported each other. They supported you.
Yeah.
They were reflecting on it. They were responsive, but respectful, it sounds like. Like, it sounds like they were giving you time and space to make your case.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And, I love that. And,
time and space to make my case. Oh, I love it.
Giving you time and space to make your case. So I just love the sound of that because, right? You could pick up on that. You could extend that to talk about and to add in context of, so if it worked here, if it works and you've got this support here, where else can you take that safety action plan or that safety agreement, and where else can you apply it to get what you need? Right? Because that's the other side of it is we can talk about the administration and all that, but politics it's the oldest game in the book. Yeah. Right? Like, if we want to play competitive of who's got it worse, like, travel back any point in time. Like, our power and privilege, just for being alive at this time in our lives, like, we're really lucky.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's that thing where, but within that, you literally were like, we have to accept the pain and we have to basically do what we got to do. So you could basically be, I'd love to see your name put out there, and I'd love to see you throw yourself out there to literally be the guy that opens up events and helps warm things up and MC events.
Yeah.
Because you could be working with that DJ and fill in time and space in between. Like, literally, we could be doing activities in between all the performers where you basically spin wheels for tools and hope, and so you see how we can incorporate what we're doing but put it into real world context and entertaining context in order to heal.
Yeah. So it was it was amazing. And when the world, oh my God, I don't know if you can see this, but she got TS Madison's autograph for me, and it says, "I love you, Seth. Love TS."
That's awesome.
She's like, here you go. I'm like, she's like, the things I do for my little brother.
That's an ally, right?
You can So yeah, awesome. Yeah, and then so after that, I think there was like one other performer, who was, oh my God, and everything. She was dancing and singing, and then took off her boots and everything. I'm like, oh God, and everything. She just danced.
Was Carrie Colby there?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm getting there. So then, of course, I kind of have look over and everything back toward where TS is, and I see Carrie Colby and other people. I'm going, hello, and everything. Apparently, they were on the panel. Like, seriously, I know. Shut up. Anyway, there's a flag. Anyway, so finally, Mariah comes back up and she says, so we're going to introduce the panel and everything. And she starts talking and everything. And then that was where that video that I sent, TS is like, give me a microphone and everything. So then they were talking and TS, gave this incredibly empowering speech and everything. And then it was interesting because it was her and then Carrie and then one other woman on there. And then she's like, what about the boys? What about the men? They have like no men on this panel and everything. So we had two other trans guys actually join, and then one other person joined as well. So I'm looking up at this panel and I'm going, oh my god. So I'm taking picture after picture and then getting videos too, like shorter videos and everything. Oh my god. And then, okay, so then the panel finally ends, and so then they're all like standing on the stage and everything, because of course they know people want pictures. So everyone starts coming to the front to get pictures, and I'm already in the front going, what the hell? I'm like, okay, I got this. So I'm taking pictures and everything, and then Renee was like, come on. She's like, what? She's like, Seth, come with me. We're going on stage. I'm like, I don't think we're allowed to go on this stage. She's like, get over here. And so we didn't actually go on stage. We were like over on the side and everything, because people had actually got up on stage and were taking pictures with TS and then with everybody else. And then when TS was coming off of the stage and everything, and her husband / bodyguard was there and everything, someone asked, Renee had asked, like, can we get a picture and everything? So that was it. Did I send you the picture?
Yeah, I saw that one.
Picture and everything. They had taken actually like a few. It was pretty much all the same picture and everything. So that was so as you can kind of see in the photo that TS, you can't kind of see it. So TS's arm is like holding like the arm like somebody else right there. That was her body. Right there.
Nice.
That was me, and then Renee like behind me and everything. I had this weird little grin.
That's so awesome.
And everything. So yeah, and then she started to get pulled away and everything. I'm like, oh my god, she touched me. Because the fact that she had her hand on my arm and everything, and then she starts getting pulled away. She looks at me, she's like, did you have fun, honey? I said, I had a lot of fun, thank you so much. And then Renee was like, held her hand and everything, and she called Renee baby and everything. It's like, Renee was like, Seth, TS Madison called me baby. I'm like, well, she touched me. I'm like, yeah, I know she touched you too, but she yeah. So anyway, excuse me. It's interesting because one of the things they were talking about on the panel was the trans community in media and everything, and that's one of the things they were talking about. But a few of the trans men in the audience were kind of it was interesting because TS brought up the question saying there are some trans men on this panel, and I'm trying to the actual question because I don't know if I recorded it or not. I recorded so much yesterday, but she was talking about kind of when the administration and everything is talking about trans folks, do you think that what they're predominantly talking about is trans women? It's not necessarily a conversation where they're bringing in all trans folks, regardless of men or women, non-binary, trans individuals, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So she was talking about how, it's really just relegated to trans women and everything. And then, so she was kind of asking, the trans men, on the panel and everything, how do you feel kind of about that? And why do you feel that trans men aren't more included in that and everything? So they were talking about that, but then some trans men in the audience were talking about how they sometimes feel left out of the conversation as well when talking about, trans, when talking about, trans folks, at all and everything. Because it's like, because I think with a lot of people, and TS even said this, like, when I look at you trans men on the panel, I would not know you were trans. In other words, it's easier for men to pass than trans women and everything. So, we're kind of talking about the whole discussion kind of about that and everything. I'm like, oh my God, it was deep. We got deep and everything. And we
Yep.
went over time because people in the audience were the trans men in the audience were, and then so TS said, okay, so how can I, as a trans woman, make you all feel more included? Because again, I see everyone here as family. And they were saying, again, it's not you. That we're making a point that it's, they're left out of the conversation. And it's interesting because some of the trans women, Sasha, Carrie, and then one other woman was gonna talk and respond. And TS is like, let them speak. Let these beautiful men speak. And everything. So she gave the men that validation right there. She gave them the floor opportunity to talk. And I was like, I just love her even more and everything. So it was really, really interesting. So yeah.
I love all of that because it's complex.
Yeah.
The truth is that and this is strictly from like a zoomed out scope, okay? Like I don't want to be the guy over here saying, here's how it all works, here's how life works. Yeah. But when we're talking about femininity, womanhood, and what is deemed femme,
yeah,
the patriarchy, the oppression, right? Basically, the more masculine you are in any scenario,
yeah,
the more you're revered. So there are basically women who are hyper feminine, and there's women who are hyper masculine. But the women who are hyper feminine, when we're talking about mainstream culture and sort of surface culture, the more feminine you are, the whiter you are, the more, dainty and morally sound or whatever, the higher your value is, or perceived. And that happens within all cultures. Like there's even within communities of culture that aren't white, there is still a race to that, like whiteness, right? Or and then the stigmas within the communities.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you have basically trans men who have transitioned from being considered or experiencing life more feminized.
Mm-hmm.
And so that opens up a kettle of fish, because there's not only do they get oppressed from essentially women who feel betrayed, or who judge them because they're basically either just butch lesbians or like whatever like stigmas or attachments we have.
Mm-hmm.
But then they also get weighed against each other and against other men, because it's like when it comes to toxic male culture, it's all about how big your dick is.
Yeah.
So then you have these folks who don't measure up and don't fit into either category, but then as a subcategory and as an individual category, where's the love and support in there? Because again, when you throw yourself into the arena of toxic masculinity, and a lot of them do, because it's a coping strategy, it's a strategy for looking tough, therefore not being fucked with, right? The masks we wear.
Absolutely.
And then on the other side of the coin, you have, women, trans women, who from a patriarchal standpoint are like piss people off because they're seen as somehow giving away their power and privilege, because how dare you not want to measure yourself up to your manhood, right?
Yeah.
And then even within the structure of male and femaleness within the trans community, there is still misogyny, there is still judgment, and then there's still self-hatred because of however we are landing in our healing place from our own journey and our own identity of gender. So do you see how, like, in that room,
Yeah.
The answer was to pause and let people say their piece, because that's actually all that was needed. What was being shared was when if like basically what I heard being shared was we need to be cognizant of the violence against Black trans women and how women are revered even within those communities. At the exact same time, who and what and where and why are we holding space for Black trans men? And the truth is that they don't have the support they need. They don't have the resources, and then when they do, they're facing the same thing we all face as men overall in healthcare, which is this incredible pressure to be showing up and participating and being vulnerable and opening up and telling everybody everything about us so that they can fix us. But at the same time, literally having our proverbial and figurative and literal nut stomped when we say, look, this isn't very kind and this isn't working out for me, and I really don't want to be your guinea pig.
It's interesting. There was one trans guy in the room. He was there, I think, with his wife probably, or girlfriend, and his child, his baby. And apparently he was telling the story about how he had transitioned and everything, and then he stopped transitioning to have their baby.
Nice.
And everything. Then, after he had the baby, went back on testosterone, and he said, and can you imagine going into a doctor's office, pregnant, still presenting as male, but pregnant? And that, it was, TS is like, ooh. So it was
on top of, and right from our safety agreement, right? So right off the hop there, imagine being a black person with the potential of triggering not only a homophobic, a transphobic, and a racist and a bigoted, like talk about navigating a healthcare system, living on the edge. And then talk about trying to have a healthy pregnancy.
That too.
When I would think it would be like, have you ever seen the movie Children of Men, where it's like
I don't think so.
So there's a story in a movie called Children of Men, and it's basically where nobody's reproducing, but there's one woman that has a baby, and they basically have to protect this because everybody's out to get that. Like, I would think that I would have to hide because of the level of the potential judgment, but I love, like, what that demonstrates is just how we have always existed, we do always exist, but that person got to do that, got to make the choice to have that child, to have affirming care. Now, it wasn't easy, baby, and it wasn't, but the fact that we can do that now, that's where I love what we do, because it's like, we can honor what's going on.
Absolutely. And there was a woman in the room, a Caucasian woman who was actually from Tennessee, and she said, I had a question, in her accent and everything, and she's like, well, I'm from Tennessee, but I'm here visiting some friends, and I help to run a gender clinic down in Tennessee and everything, supporting the trans community. So I wanted to know from y'all. She said y'all, and TS was like, I love your accent, by the way, because TS, of course, from Atlanta, so she's like, oh, I love your accent. So she was talking about how can she make the clinic like more inclusive to the trans community, pretty much. How can she do that and everything? So so
that's
anyway,
awesome.
And everything. So people were answering and everything, and it was interesting because I think it was interesting because this woman was able to get the perspective from trans women on the panel as well as trans men. And that was something I thought was really, really powerful, I think.
Well, and what's powerful though, and what is demonstrated is, like, these are folks who are not of the culture, not of the color, but of the community where we show up in those rooms and we ask those questions, and that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
I don't like being the poster child for wokeness in the eyes of toxic people. It doesn't make anybody safe, right?
Nope.
So, but what I love is that there are those examples that Renee did not hesitate because of her love for you to make sure that you got an autograph, or make sure that you.
Yeah, she messaged me after when she got home, because I told her to text me when she got home and everything, and she said that she had a lot of fun today. She was happy to be there to support me, and she said, "I'll admit it was out of my comfort zone, but I learned a lot." I said, "I'm glad," and everything. It's interesting because while Renee was there, even before anything had really started, she looked at me and she was basically saying, "It's like, okay, Seth, so tell me again, what do each of the letters stand for?" Because she wanted to know, and I told her what each of the letters like stood for and everything. She's like, "Okay, God," because she was trying to, again, not offend anybody, number one, but then also, she was asking kind of about pronouns. So when we were when we were sitting there, she saw everyone on the panel. She leaned over to me and whispered to me, and she asked me, "It's like, what is everyone's pronoun on the panel and everything?" And it was interesting because TS then asked everyone on the panel what was their pronoun. It's like, could she hear Renee? Because I thought Renee had actually spoken Catholic. It's interesting because I didn't tell you actually one of the things that I had actually said during that whole 20-minute spiel thing. So because I thought I was done, and then Andy's like, "A few more minutes, Seth." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm like, "All right, I got this." So I'm like, "Okay, all right, I'm gonna try this from here." So I said, "My name is Seth," and I said my whole name, and I said my pronouns, and I said, "And this is the name that I choose." And then I said, "Who in here has a name that they chose?" Majority of everyone raised their hand, and I said, "That's power." I'm done. I was like, that right there is power right there. That's power right there.
So
that's about taking back that control, because it's, again, yes, as a lot of us were given a name at birth and everything, but as a transgender individual, we design ourselves. I'm gonna say it till I'm bluey in the facey.
So given the journey we've taken, where you basically explored what all of yesterday looked like, how much do you remember of, or what's your impression of your morning motivation video yesterday? What would you say your self-impression of it is, or the gist of it?
I thought, again, when I did this video in the very early morning, I think I was just so excited about everything. I could just, I was almost piddling in my pants. But I think that, I haven't watched it back since early yesterday morning, actually.
Happy Self-Care Saturday, folks. Let's make it amazing. Need a little boost or some extra motivation? Check out my morning inspiration video for today. It is normal to have shame and guilt around your story of recovery and wellness. However, there are ways to find power in your story and change your life for the better with a single decision. Let's learn how to take power back in your life by listening to what helped me shift my perspective in my own life. Inside this video, there are 2 quotes and a lesson for the day and a song for the day. Check them out below. Quote, "It's important for people to know that no matter what lies in their past, they can overcome the dark side and press on to a brighter world." Dave Peltzer. And quote, "Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional." And that's the Buddha. And song for the day, "For Once in My Life" by Mel B. This was all before your presentation yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to be the presenter you are today. I haven't seen your today's video yet.
Okay.
But I want you to think about who and what you are today, having given what yesterday's experience was like and seeing your skills that you've been practicing put to real world application, and then especially the improvisational piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's watch this and then give me your opinion about what you see in this video. Okay?
Okay. It's your pal and friend Seth. Welcome to your morning inspiration video for today. If we're keeping track, it is day number 24. Cannot believe it. Hope you are doing well. You are making it the most fantastic day ever. So, so you see me doing these morning inspiration videos. As I said, it's day number 24. You see me doing these morning inspiration videos every day, in order to kind of help others, help you all to get motivated, on a daily basis. Helping myself in the process also, to get motivated on a daily basis, so we can all have, make up the most fantastic day ever and make our lives just flourish. But full disclosure, that wasn't always the case for me. My life has been kind of riddled with, there's just been a lot of pain, struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, homelessness, abuse. There's been a lot. Now, you're probably thinking, Seth, this is a morning inspiration video. Why are you talking about all that and trying to bring us down? And the thing is, I'm not trying to bring you down. But the one thing that I will say is that our past and things that we may be going through right now, in order for me to move past kind of what was going on inside of my life, I had to figure out that all of this hurt, all of the pain that I was in, everything that I was going through, the trauma, that's all part of my story. That's all a part of our story. And in essence, it's what makes us a hell of a lot stronger for it. So I was in a situation in 2017 where I was literally in a homeless shelter, hating my life, hating just everything, wanting it all to end. I was in pain emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically almost every single day. It was not until I woke up one day and made the most amazing and powerful decision that would literally shape the next 8 years of my life. See, I didn't have a working phone at the time, but I was able to find internet. I went to the library. I was in South Carolina at the time. I went to the library. They had internet. And I got in touch with some friends of mine in Virginia and said, I need to get the hell out of here or I'm going to wind up dead. And they got me out of there. Getting out of there, coming back to Virginia, getting support from friends, chosen family friends, getting set up with therapists, a caseworker, finding support, finding the kind of this comes from the power of having supportive people in our life. That helped me to kind of try and get my balance back and get a little bit of clarity for myself. I started going to groups. I started re-immersing myself back in music, which was and always it has been my great love. And started to find me again, honestly. I realized that I had a story. My story, my journey was something that I was learning to take pride in rather than just hating it and not wanting to acknowledge it at all. And this came from acceptance. One of the biggest things I will say is in order to lessen a lot of the pain that we're in, for me, a lot of the pain that I was in, for any of us, it starts with acceptance. When I realized that, you know what, I have a voice, I have a story, and what I want to do is I want to share it, and I want to help to empower others. That was when I actually got the opportunity to do my first ever workshop at a local conference, a local Pathways to Wellness conference, where I talked about finding balance through pain. I talked about kind of what things that I have done in my life to kind of help me to find pain, to help me to find healing. And that was May of 2023. Fast forward 2 years. We're now in May 2025. The date is today, May 24th, 2025. I'm doing a workshop and a talk at probably one of the biggest events that, like one of the biggest global World Pride events today.
First of its kind.
And again, this starts with acceptance. But the other thing it really starts with is finding control. What am I in control of? I'm not in control of any of my experiences. I mean, there may have been, experiences that were beyond my control. I can't control those. I can't control other people. But the one thing that I can control is me. I can control my reactions to things that happen. I can control my responses. And that is where I found my true power. When I was able to realize that all this pain that I was in on a daily basis, I can accept that. Lessening my pain with acceptance and figuring out who the hell is in control. Me. I'm in control. That is where the power lies. That is where all of our power lies. Right there. Acceptance. Full and total acceptance. And realizing what we are in control of. And changing it. So with that being said, I want to give you 2 quotes here. One of them is, "It's important for people to know that no matter what lies in their past, they can overcome the dark side and press on to a brighter world," by Dave Peltzer. And the other one, "Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional," by Buddha. For our song for today, it's out of our morning inspiration video, "For Once in My Life" by Mel B. Yes, Mel B of the Spice Girls. This is a song, this is about letting go. It's a song about embracing freedom and feeling good about oneself. But again, this is also a sense of liberation and also self-acceptance. I talked about acceptance, self-acceptance. So, I know I kind of a little bit veered today, but it's one of those things where we have to realize that all of the pain that we may be going through, all of it, all the pain we may be going through, we may have gone through in our past, we want to lessen it, and we can lessen it with acceptance. And when we find acceptance, we call radical acceptance, we can then figure out what we're in control of. And guess what? We're in control of ourselves. Our power lies in who and what we can control us. Our personal power source is us. For me, it's me. For you, it's you. Take back your power. Don't let anyone dim your light.
Giving
that little ticker on the bottom, don't quit before the miracle happens. Find ways to keep moving forward. If I can do it, anyone can do it. We can do it. Let's lock arms and do it together. I'm serving fuzzy eyebrow realness.
Look at that eyebrow.
Thank you so much for watching your day 24 morning inspiration video. Go out and make it the most fantastic day ever. Stay positive, stay motivated, stay focused on your huge, amazing, big dreams and goals. Never let anyone tell you that you can't achieve them, because guess what? You can, honey. You can achieve those goals. Go out and do it. Because you are in control. Have a wonderful day. Make it a fantastic day. And I will see you in the morning inspiration video for tomorrow. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
Swimming in the ocean.
Wow. As I said, serving fuzzy eyebrow realness. I'm like, what
Oh,
the
yeah.
hell? I'm doing like a WWE thing, The Rock. Thing.
It was, you were serving Milton Furl, not Milton Berle. You were furling that eye.
Yeah.
So what did you think of that? Seeing that coming full circle?
Wow. Seeing that and then realizing kind of what I did yesterday. I think it probably was one of those things where I was maybe in that moment, I think because everything was happening so fast and they said, Seth, just wing it for like 10-20 minutes. I just...
You picked it up like it was a bookmark.
I grabbed what I'm like, all right, okay.
Which you like, but that's... Here's where I sound like I'm bragging, like I had anything to do with it, but that's kind of what I was trying to sort of emulate as a mentor and as a leader in our circle, because it isn't about what we're saying or who we're saying it to. It's about how we're listening and how we're picking up what's being put down, and then how we're reflecting that somehow in the space so that the next time they come back, there's something familiar there.
Yeah.
And so what I, essentially in showing up in my truck, showing up in all these other places, showing up here and being willing to turn corners, that is how we serve people in trauma, because we don't want to react and respond to emotion all the time. Because if we expect people to not be able to like project their emotion, then how does anybody ever get to experience it or to share it or to get emotional help with it?
That's true.
And the truth is that in a structure where we have a therapist, if you're like me, those therapists have betrayed you my whole life. Like, so it's really in me giving me another shot now, and then being able to navigate what that's like. And for me, in current terms, having and talking and sharing the peers, ethics, values, and guidelines with people, but also just consistently repeating that it has nothing to do with us winning a lottery or having some luck. It has everything to do with finding the tools, the people, the resources, and the strength within to say, fuck what everybody's saying about me.
Yeah.
I'm me.
Yep.
It does all come back to the D, and it all comes back to, and the issue is, and what you might have, what I heard in what you shared earlier too, is you had somebody on that panel, or you had a performer who said, it'll help keep me safe if you guys don't molest me, essentially.
Yeah, I had a performer that
right? Yeah. That trans guy saying, please don't molest me.
Yeah.
That's
he was
what
like, because I know I look good and everything. He just
he owned it. He was still being available. I'm here to entertain you. I'm not here to be molested by you. And so, but that is like, at the end of the day, sex workers, trans folks, men and women, queer folk, people who are not us see us as their as something that's there to perform for them, and unfortunately men are obsessed by things that they find sexually shocking and all this stuff. So all of that energy online, especially in social media spaces and in dark places out in the world, it really is the toxicity of it being the extension of somebody's sex or their lack thereof, and especially white women, but women in general, they've always just been an extra pissed off at queer people, because when you have family breakdowns and stuff as a result of these things, guess who's targeted and blamed? It's never the man. It's the black trans person, or the trans person, or the sex worker, or the whore, or this, that, or the other, the fag, that, right? So,
yep.
But none of that matters, because when we're talking about who we are and what we are and what today means, we have our freedom. We continue.
Yep.
But we don't mask and we don't hide, because there's people who are like us who are further stigmatized, further labeled.
That's true.
And you landed it like a pro, because you show up in spaces where people are really just not, they just don't have the same level of education. But if you're like me, you realize how magical it is when we do have somebody that realizes a little bit more about themselves through our stories. And
it's true. Yeah, I really would, because I think this type of space, this type of community of practice would just be incredible for a lot of individuals, honestly. Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I do think so. Yes.
It talks about Ram Dass back in 1991. He tried to do a 5-day workshop where him and other spiritual teachers showed up to a community to do a 5-day workshop on healing and finding unity through something or else. And there was there were Black and Latino people, members of that by day 2 they called them the caucus, but they had basically come together and said, ain't no white people telling us how to
Yeah.
how to heal or whatever. And then what came of that? So it ended up, they completely turned a corner, and they completely turned it into an open circle that they called what was it? It was something like circle of oppression or something like this. But it was an exercise where they had people go into the center who felt that they were oppressed, and then they got to talk about and share why they felt they were oppressed. And they went through every category, every group. So they said, okay, Black men, Black women, trans, this, that, and the last group to go were the white people. And they got to talk about what it felt like to be oppressed within a system of oppression. So anyway, we'll talk more about that later, but
Yeah, it sounds interesting. Okay.
I think it all ties in.